Okay, so welcome to the Digital Lean Momentum event today. Very excited to have this conversation. Real quick, just some administrative issues right off the bat here. There are a series of questions throughout the webinar, so if you wouldn't mind engaging on those when they pop up, appreciate that. Gives us a good context for who's ever on the call today. Everyone will be on mute throughout the event today. If there's some time at the end, we'll leave that for questions and answers at the end. And then just a final note too, this is a merging conversation across not only manufacturing operations, but across a large part of the industry. So if there's a need to have a further conversation after this event, please reach out because again, this is an emerging and very exciting conversation piece. Just a quick intro for context here. So my name is Brian Armstrong. I'm the Ashling Partners Advisory specific to manufacturing, operations, supply chain, a vertical that tends to be more and more horizontal. And my background is mostly in manufacturing operations. And I was very fortunate that on each of the companies I worked with, they were in a continuous improvement journey, but they were at a pivoting point where they were looking for new programs, seeking the best tools for effective change management, transformation, business transformation, etc. So that when I made that transformation to the intelligent automation world, it seemed very obvious that the digital team and intelligent automation team and a lean or a Six Sigma team would be working together. In fact, in one of the manufacturing groups I was with, I was able to go through and do a green belt, black belt certification. So it's very near and dear to my heart. So again, my thesis from the very beginning was that these groups should be working together. And I was actually surprised that that is not always the case. And referring to an earlier abstract that we posed out there, we asked the question, how do some organizations achieve momentum so quickly while others remain in various stages of limbo? And really, I believe that this is one of those unlocks, is that integration of these teams. So before we get into the agenda, a real quick cap on what's the output. I'm always asking myself, watching a webinar, conducting a meeting, listening to a podcast, what am I going to walk away with? And in this case, hopefully it's an abstract for conversation. So an abstract to have a discussion with your internal continuous improvement organization, leadership in those groups, as an artifact to start to expand how these groups can leverage one another effectively, because there is real opportunity here in that convergence of digital and lean or digital and Six Sigma, but you cannot diagnose what you have not yet identified. And in this case, that lack of communication at whatever level is a real gap for many intelligent automation programs. Result. So today we'll focus on the landscape to start with, a bit of definition setting. How does intelligent automation leverage lean, and how does lean leverage intelligent automation? Does that vice versa, that communication piece? The next part is how we can engage with one another. And this is very much a call to action for yourself and your program. And then at the very end here, excited that we're going to peel the onion back a little bit more and we've set up a follow-up event in this series that will highlight a practitioner of Six Sigma and RPA specifically. So very much is the agenda today. So first, quick poll question here to set a baseline. Okay, this first one is, do you have a dedicated Lean Six Sigma team? And this can be different depending on the organization here. Some teams do have a dedicated team as far as they have a dedicated, but that could be a project management team, that could be, right, I'll call it Six Sigma team. All organizations are very much different in how they leverage each one of these pieces. Or that could be one of those extra hats that we all get to wear from time to time. In my history, that was within operations. Commonly you'd see somebody in engineering also wear that Six Sigma hat, IT, etc. So just take a quick minute to complete that so we can get a good idea of where we're at. Just a few seconds longer here. All right. Okay, so the majority here, and it's actually pretty close, the majority do not have a dedicated Six Sigma team, which is just fine. Every organization is a bit different. So I assume in many cases, there either isn't an existing operation there, or it's a case where you get people that get to wear a number of hats within the organization. All right, next question here. And I know you already have that on your poll already up, but does the Six Sigma Lean team have a funnel of initiatives? And depending on your exposure, you may not even know the answer to that. Looks like a number of people actually do, but the question is, and I'm basically setting up the conversation here, is are they working on business transformational ideas throughout the organization? Are they reactive, or are they working off of a subset of organizational strategic objectives? And in this case, again, polling, it's the majority is actually saying that they do not have a funnel of initiatives that they're working off of. So honestly, I'd be curious of how that's working within that organization, or if there's just not a full understanding of what that looks like. All right, so we'll move on here. All right, so a little bit of setting the landscape in terms of definitions, because I want to make sure that if this is in fact an artifact, clear. Lean process improvement identifies which working processes are valuable and which are inefficient. So the aim here is to streamline workflows, minimize waste, improve quality, and ultimately pass on that value to the customer. And that can be an internal customer, which Six Sigma is a disciplined, statistical-based, data-driven approach of continuous improvement methodology for eliminating defects in a product, a process, or a service. So high level, looking at that, data-driven process, data-driven approach, streamlining processes, elimination of wastes and defects, passing on that value. And as you can see here, when you look at the convergence of those, you get a acceleration of Lean Six Sigma. And just a side note, because practitioners that are in this, in the Lean world or Six Sigma world very deeply, those definitions can change a bit. It just depends on their approach and what that history looks like for the organization. So I'm fully keeping that in mind. But again, for the sake of as an artifact that we can speak to with the larger group, these are some good basic definitions. The methodology is definitely sound. Now, if we flip and we look at the other side of that, and we look at the automation side, and initially here, we're going to focus on and concentrate on the Intelligent Automation Center of Excellence. What does that do? So in Center of Excellence for Intelligent Automation will provide direction and a vision across an automation program. So among other things, the COE will drive business results of automation. And this is where we should see some parallels in terms of intent. So the Intelligent Automation COE is going to drive the business benefits of productivity gains, cost savings, risk management in terms of quality. So hopefully we're seeing some parallels here, as well as innovation, perhaps for the purpose of scaling intelligently or those go-to-market objectives. And finally, employee engagement. And this is where we see, again, many parallels with a Lean Six Sigma program, especially around that employee engagement, trying to tap into subject matter experts. And this is literally spelled out in their mission statements with their continuous improvement program. So I can give you a very good example. So throughout, there's a construction and mining company I'm familiar with that calls out the following in their Lean strategic imperative. And they say, throughout the company, we will embed Lean principles to accelerate a culture, stop defects, improve processes, and eliminate waste in pursuit of operational excellence. So you could easily insert intelligent automation into that exact same statement. So it would read, throughout the company, we will embed intelligent automation principles to accelerate culture, stop defects, improve processes, and eliminate waste in pursuit of operational excellence. So the point is here, there's a lot of parallels, and these teams should be working together in some capacity. The company goes on to say that they focus on 3 processes or 3 areas. They work on core fundamental processes, governance of activities, and then enabling informational management, people, culture, and value stream transformation. So again, if you would look at Ashling Partners Intelligent Automation COE, which works off of 9 pillars, some of that language is almost verbatim in terms of how we would run intelligent automation to drive a business forward. So again, just driving that point home that these groups should be definitely working together. Now, this is a great visual to put things together because again, in the sake of an artifact, we don't. And I hesitate because I never want to read a slide, but just very quickly to make the point, what this is saying is that Bain finds that while traditional lean typically produces a 15% reduction of key operational costs, digital lean adds 100% improvement on top of that for a 30% cost reduction. And in this case, it's highlighting a few KPIs that are very familiar in not only the manufacturing world, but a number of other industries as well. So it talks about OEE, or overall equipment efficiency, inventory reduction, productivity, and you can see the trend here, right? You can see that while traditional lean provides a savings, digital lean can take it to the next level. Now, whatever I'm looking at, a graphic or a visual, it looks pretty, I always want to say, okay, but what does that mean and what's the how? So let's dive into 2 different ones. So starting with inventory, what does traditional lean do versus what a digital lean concept would work with? So with traditional lean, that's going to identify and mitigate instability across a value stream absorbed by additional inventory. So what that means is, typically you'll see inventory ahead or behind certain processes to, in the interim, mitigate any type of downtime that would be passed on to that next manufacturing line, if I could be really very literal about it. So the idea is that that inventory could be absorbed, provides a bit of a buffer, no worries there. So lean methods would drive to manufacture only in the quantity needed and the time required. A lot of planning goes into that ahead of time, and it's something that is typically set in stone for that period of time. Now, digital lean Six Sigma would bring real-time visibility to work in process to identify unexpected inventory buildup. It's a proactive effort. It's a real-time effort versus looking at what we planned for in the beginning. So let's look at another one in the form of efficiency. So when we're looking at efficiency, we're always looking at some of those top 7 wastes, and one of those is wasting time. So traditional lean is going to look at methods to mitigate that wasted time. And this doesn't have to be a physical waste of time, but traditional lean typically falls in that category. And again, it's going to identify and mitigate unbalanced operations. It's going to mitigate bottlenecks, downtime, and that list of waste will go on. It's going to identify that. Digital lean will bring speed in identifying and rerouting bottlenecks based off of real-time status and data. So not necessarily reacting to what happened last week, last month, or even yesterday, but right now. And traditional lean is historically, not always, has been focused on the factory floor, whereas digital lean can look at that wasted time or those bottlenecks and back office functions. So perhaps that's a PO stuck, or a number of POs, or hundreds of POs stuck in approval during off hours of operations as they stand today. So looking at that bottleneck from a digital perspective layer. And we'll go back to another question here. Just get the feedback here. The next one here is, have you integrated Lean Six Sigma teams in your automation journey? So take a look at the results here so far. For seconds. So in this case, the majority is saying that they work independent of one another. And again, I'm setting this up. I'm fully aware of that, but that's exactly why we're here. Is that for the majority, these two groups are broken up to different sets and they don't necessarily collaborate. So let's talk about leveraging digital lean. And what should this look like? Okay, so how should this work? And we'll just take it from the top down. So first, funnel of automation opportunities. And this is an important part, very much a point we want to stress here. A healthy and consistent funnel of quality automation opportunities is a challenge for many, many organizations. Now, we asked the question before, and perhaps it'll be more impactful if we're seeing this as a recording, but we asked, do Lean Six Sigma teams have a funnel of initiatives? I certainly hope so, because traditionally, a Lean team is going to work off of a set of strategic objectives or strategic goals. You know, they're driving down an inventory cost problem. Obviously, the last 2 years, a lot of the discussion around a Six Sigma team or a Lean team is how to streamline all the inventory issues that we're having. They're tackling quality improvements. Perhaps there's just an initiative to drive quality to that next level as customer demand goes up. They're driving efficiencies, always a goal to be more and more efficient. Intelligent automation COEs, or centers of excellence, are driving those exact same initiatives. So to be very specific, so in my advisory role, an important pillar that we focus on for the COE is process identification. So when we're working with a client, we'll lay out a plan to engage with various business units. So that could be engaging with HR, that could be engaging with IT, and we'll look at what their KPIs are, what their business unit objectives are, and then we'll also look at where they're spending a lot of their time, where they are paper heavy, and start to have those conversations. We'll do that with procurement, we'll do that with supply chain, finance, list goes on. Most recently, we've added a subset, which is that continuous improvement organization, that Lean team, that Six Sigma team, what have you. Let's do that exact same exercise as we do with the business units. So the conversation is really Lean Six Sigma team, where are you spending a lot of your time? Where are you spending a lot of your effort? Where are you paper heavy? Let's do that exact same exercise to expose those opportunities and perhaps, ironically enough, enhance your current plan of operations. Perhaps we could optimize there. Because where are you leaving a manual process even after we've done a Lean exercise? Now, ideally, that would always be a question or a statement. Anytime that we are conducting a Lean Six Sigma process improvement and we are still leaving behind a manual process, we should look to RPA. We should look to an intelligent automation technology at some level as a solution. We should entertain that. Change management. So digital lean transformation requires people to learn different ways of working, literally changing how they work. Lean Six Sigma practitioners is all about change. They're all about disrupting the current flow for the sake of continuous improvement, for the sake of moving the business forward. They have to get really good at that conversation. They have to get really good at that process to sustain change. So you have real assets here in terms of leveraging their knowledge to drive change, which drives us right down to that communication piece. The ability and the know-how to identify stakeholders and doers of those existing processes that we need to then involve to effectively create lasting change. Moving down to velocity, a common rebuttal prior to initiating an opportunity for automation is the following. We would like to streamline or improve that process first before moving that on to automation. That's a constant rebuttal. And that's a fair statement. Why not utilize the best practices and the experience of a Lean or Six Sigma team? Not always, definitely not always, but when we need support, when we need help, we need best practices, why not utilize those teams? And certainly not as a bottleneck, but as a practice. And this all leads down to mitigating those common barriers that we see in supporting an intelligent automation journey. So looking at the flip side of that, how does intelligent automation support Lean Six Sigma? So first, bring speed and clarity to data and analytics. Pen and paper and Excel and other manual processes are still regular tools of the trade for Lean, and they certainly work. But why not bring in intelligent automation, data analytics, the speed of that to the process? So speed and decision-making, transferring right to that. We are shortening the data collection time span. I can picture myself back doing a number of Lean programs or Six Sigma programs and just pining through tons of data and finding the best ways to gather that data, which takes weeks, sometimes months to get enough of that data set. Leverage intelligent automation to make that happen, and then leverage your Lean and Six Sigma team for the next project, or taking that time span shorter for execution. Process mining for process mapping. So process mining identifies process inefficiencies by following the digital trail of data and is significantly quicker and more accurate than process mapping, which is basically interviews and flow charting. Both very effective. I did a lot of interviews and a lot of flow charting, very effective. But obviously, process mining is significantly faster. I saw it put recently in an article that kind of compared the two of it's a talk versus a data driven model. So if I incorporate a little bit more context here specific to Lean and Six Sigma, let's bring in some of those traditional Lean terms and look at the difference there. So Kanban, you even see this in the digitalist sense today. What does that mean? Just again, for the sake of the artifact. So a Kanban is a signaling mechanism used to control work. So that could be inventory, that could be supplies, and that helps communicate the need for replenishment. So in that traditional Lean example, that literally looks like bins of parts and supplies. And when you have to lay that out, for example, on a factory floor, you're literally going through an entire line and identifying what is the right quantity so that you don't have any downtime associated with a piece of inventory or a piece of supply that you need to make your mechanism. Digital Lean, incorporating that part and incorporating 4.0 technologies like machine learning, can simulate and optimize upstream for stock and or even delivery frequency. It's a game changer in terms of bringing speed to that entire process. Let's look at TPM. Let's talk about TPM for a moment. Total productive maintenance. And this is a pretty hot topic when you look at Industry 4.0. So I'm sure that resonates with a number of people here. But what does that mean? So total productive maintenance is all about optimizing equipment performance. So think about machining centers, you can think about welding machines, you can think about any equipment involved in a manufacturing or a distribution facility, any equipment used for production or servicing, right? Traditionally. So through a variety of exercises, TPM is performed based off of runtime, it's based off of cycle time, and a few other variables, depending on the equipment. This is used so that we know before a failure would typically occur, we would do that proactive maintenance, hence the term. Now, digital Lean, again, leveraging sensors, data, machine learning, algorithms, we can enable predictive maintenance, where the service is done based off of the conditions of the machine, so vibration, force, temperature. This enables extending the machine intervals, but also can provide for reduced inventory or the servicing of parts and overhead. And that can be extremely expensive based off of what machine that you're working with. So a few predictions as we move forward here. So just as the digital transformation has been accelerated, especially in the last 2 years, so too will this conversation about the digital and lean convergence, and specifically around structure. And it's actually a pretty sensitive topic quite often. So who owns the program, whether that's an RPA program or an intelligent automation program? Who owns it? Where are the developers hosted? I'm just using that term. Are they within IT? Are they within a business unit? Are they within a Six Sigma organization? Regardless, should not be a power struggle, and it must be a collaborative solution. Thus, I would continue to see that intelligent automation programs and Lean Six Sigma programs are owned by the same person or group or a combination of that structure. You know, commonly we hear that a best practice is that an intelligent automation program should be business-led and IT supported. So it's the same methodology while leveraging age-old expertise of Lean Six Sigma. And why is that? Well, one suggestion, why house those together in some capacity? But one suggestion is when we host the program or the developers of that intelligent automation program closer to the business, they are in turn exposed to higher volumes of business processes on a regular basis versus alternative. And really, this is me again setting up the follow-up conversation of this, and we'll get into that in a moment. And then the final prediction here is process mining. So basically greater leverage on both sides. And obviously, if they're already working together, all the better. But all in all, greater leverage of this technology as a tool for real-time, data-driven exposure here. So let's look at this question today. So if siloed today, and again, even if you're listening to or recording this, I would love to hear these answers. Would you make an introduction? So would you start to converge these two groups and then see what kind of leverage we can gain on both sides? Just real quickly here. And thankfully, hopefully this means that we've done our job today, that the majority would say that they would make some type of introduction. So that's good to hear. And that's something that would be great to do on a consistent basis to see where this conversation or where the trend is going. So this is really more of a call to action, right? So and again, just to set this up a bit, as I said from the beginning, hopefully this call to action brings a little bit more out of your time today, because more and more organizations are winning utilizing what we discussed today. If not already integrated, start the conversation. Educate first and expand that conversation. Share initiatives. So quite literally, these are some of the conversations that I get to hear on a regular basis. Let's say it's a conversation with the supply chain. And the conversation goes, we are conducting a large scale program to tackle an inventory problem. We would like to streamline that opportunity. It's a regular conversation. And my question is your continuous improvement team involved? So I mean, Lean Six Sigma or whatever you call it. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Is the Intelligent Automation Center of Excellence involved? This is the perfect time to integrate the groups. And obviously, as you're streamlining a new program or process, it's the perfect time for a funnel of opportunities. Share your struggles. Where is one group struggling where the other one can help? And discuss target processes that are of interest. Leverage one another and engage with a partner like Ashling Partners to help have that conversation, to do that change management, and to move these things forward. Entertain that integration. So what's next here? So I'm very excited to get into what this looks like moving forward. So the next piece here is really to talk to a practitioner. And it's always good to talk to somebody that is obviously in the trenches here. So on the 3rd, we're going to talk with Gene Younger, who's the VP, Chief Digital Officer and Six Sigma leader at Security Benefit. That's going to talk about a few things. Let's talk about organizational structure and best practices around that, advantages and disadvantages of hosting an RPA programmer within Six Sigma. It's a very interesting topic. And then which Six Sigma tools to leverage and when. So obviously, please, when you have a moment, register for that. That is in a few months from now, but obviously good to talk about that now. And then we do have a moment. We do have just a one question here is, can you please share these slides and the recording? Absolutely, I'd be happy to do that. You can send out afterwards. But I definitely appreciate your time. Hopefully this was very valuable. And again, the intent here is utilize this as an artifact to continue that conversation. So again, my name is Brian Armstrong with Ashling Partners. It's been a pleasure, very much so. Have a wonderful day. Thank you very much.